Yo, what's popping? Doing the second last day of the midseason madness review, starting with the Atlanta ran against the Shanghai Dragons. It was an elimination game, so Atlanta went 3-1 and Shanghai do go home. These Youngs are 2-1 for Atlanta. They're playing Kai, Venom, Hawk, Ultraviolet, and OG. Shanghai playing Lip, Fleta, Fate, Izayaki, and Li Gan. Night Market, though, is a 100 to Shanghai. They do the thing where they win the first round and then just lose the rest. Atlanta playing Sojourn Tracer, Balmore, and Lucio. Shanghai doing the same, except their backline is on Zen Brig. So Shanghai just kind of win this one. Lip kind of dips. He's killing Kai a lot of fights, finding kills on OG. OG didn't even get a beat in this round. So Atlanta do start on the ball, but Hawk swaps over to the Doomfist, and I do like that swap. I don't think Hawk has much of a chance against Fate on the ball. Just doesn't really seem like it would work out well, and it doesn't work out well, and they basically give up on that for the rest of the series. So happy that they don't continue to do that. They recognize that it was bad, but it was too little, too late, and Atlanta just couldn't beat Shanghai there. However, Gardens was a different story. It's 176 for Atlanta. Atlanta playing Sojourn, Tracer, Doom, Moira, Lucio. Shanghai playing Sojourn, Mei, Ryan, Bap, Lucio. So Shanghai playing the rest composition. Lip continues to kind of be crazy. So Shanghai kind of Lip kills Kai, and then Shanghai moves to cap the point. Izayaki Windows, but he dies. But Li Shigan is just living, and Shanghai is just winning. However, Hawk ends up killing Lip, then Li Shigan beats, and Hawk kills 3. So Hawk pops off there, and Atlanta flip. And at this point, it's done like dinner for Shanghai. Atlanta holds strong, even though Lip is able to kill Kai. OG gets a sick double boop, and Atlanta hold on. And then Shanghai at this point swapped the Tracer, Doom on it. Venom on Genji now is actually doing work. I forget when he swapped to Genji, but he was on it and it was actually working. So shout out to that. But Shanghai really struggling to break through. Whenever you swap your whole composition that late into the round, you reset all of your ultimates. It's very difficult to actually cap the point back. And Atlanta end up winning this round. And in the next round, I didn't write the next round. Unlucky. I don't remember now. It was hours ago. So, whatever. I must have been doing something at that point. I think I was maybe... I don't remember. Whatever. So, King's Row is a 2-1 for Shanghai. Bebe comes in for Li Gan. Curious. So, Atlanta on their offense plays Sojourn Tracer, Winston, Ana, Zen. Shanghai plays Sojourn Echo, Winston, Zen, Ana. However, Hawk jumps in and loses, and he's like, I'm actually going to play Sigma. Smart decision. So Atlanta actually after this just walk on the point, and they somehow win without Hawk. Not entirely sure how that happens. They find the picks they need to do, but you'd think, oh, there's no Hawk for any point pressure. Doesn't matter. UV ends up dying to Lip. Oh, I'm reading the wrong stuff. I was reading up here for some reason. But yeah, same thing. So yeah, they win. Shanghai's able to stabilize and they're at the arc, arch, not an arc, because of Lip, and then Kai gets a pick, and then he gets nanos. Shanghai actually give a lot of space on B, and they give up the choke. And Atlanta's looking good. They have very solid momentum, but Lip ends up killing Kai as Atlanta looks at cap, and then Atlanta back up, and they're never able to gain that momentum back. It's quite sad. They were genuinely looking very good at the very end of B, but killing Kai was all it took for Atlanta to stop in their tracks. I do think that they should have maybe got some more pressure up in the alleyway from Venom, because I feel like it was kind of linear how they were attacking that, and then if Shanghai didn't have to turn for Venom at all, basically. So Shanghai ended up holding strong at the end of B. Shanghai on their offense plays Sojourn Tracer, Winston, Zen, Ana. Atlanta plays the same thing on the defense. Shanghai have a super scrappy fight on A, and both teams end up losing all their supports. However, Shanghai decides to ult and try to win it and dive deep into the backline. Doesn't work out because Atlanta gets some kills. They end up coming back, and then it's looking very good for them. They, by all means, should have been able to stabilize. However, Shanghai are not fully cleared off the point. Hawk and Venom have a miscommunication, and no one's on the point. So Shanghai end up capping and have 4 minutes entering B. And Atlanta end up giving a lot of space on B because, well, they lost all the pressure they had because they got off the point. So the Shanghai reinforcements are right there. So they have to give up Archway and a lot of Street Phase. Then Nano Overclock Lip ends up killing 4. And then, just like that, it's a win. And I don't love Atlanta on the Winston here. The Sigma looked really good for them this tourney, and I'm really surprised they did. Up here, I talked about how Hawk ended up switching to Sigma. He actually didn't do that on this map, if I'm remembering correctly. He did not switch over to the Sigma, so that was a lie. I be lying sometimes. But yeah, I don't love playing the Winston. Just put Hawk on Sigma. At least on A for the defense. I find it very difficult for offensive teams to actually dive onto the Sigma, especially on Kings Row A. Especially with Winston. I think Winston, whenever they're playing the Zenyatta, he just jumps in, he's Discord, and he's useless at that point. Doomfist at least can live a little bit, can displace the team a bit, but Winston can't do any of that. So kind of sad for the decision that Atlanta would take, but whatever. Circuit Rail is a 3-2 for Atlanta. Nero comes in for Venom, and Void comes in for Fate. Shanghai and their offense play Widow, Sojourn, Sigma, Zen, Bap. Atlanta play Widow, Hanzo, Sigma, Bap, Zen. So basically the same thing, except Atlanta have the Hanzo for better shield pressure. Shanghai have the Sojourn for better pick potential. Hold on. Okay, so on A, Atlanta give to around the bend. It's a very slow start, and multiple minutes go by. Nero's not really taking an off angle though. Normally you'd have the Widowmaker playing like far back right behind the Sigma barrier, and or the Hanzo there, and the other sniper would be up on the hill more onto the other side of B, like across from the attacking team, so that they can get a better angle on the back line. However, both the snipers are just sitting kind of behind the shield. This lets Shanghai be able to kind of walk up and get pressure Hawk down. Eventually, Shanghai do take him down because they don't really have to hide from anything, so they get a lot of pressure on the shield, and they head into B with 450. Shanghai is playing very aggressively. They have their ultimates available, but then Kai ends up killing 2 and shuts down all of Shanghai's momentum. Flood at this point is also over to Genji. They end up trading out sites. Nero Dragon forces out Immo, but then Hawk Flux isn't able to actually kill anything. However, Kai is the GOAT and he kills Bebe and Lip, so Shanghai fall back. Kai chases them down, so Shanghai aren't able to make any more progress on B. However, Shanghai pull up with their support ults, Feta cheese, shoutouts. Fleta Blade trades OG, and then Hawk ends up dying to Void, and then they have 130 entering C. At this point, Atlanta play Pool, and they give a lot of push. However, Nero gets a good pick on the Fleta, and Shanghai are forced to back up. Then sites trade out, but then Hawk hits a good flex on the Izayaki. Nero ends up killing Void, and Atlanta hold at the very end of C. So, a pretty decent push from Shanghai. You don't have to cap it all the way a lot of the times, but in this particular instance, they kind of did. So Atlanta's offense, they play Widow, Hanzo, Sigma, Bab, Zen. Shanghai continue to opt for the Sojourn for better pick potential instead of the Hanzo, and otherwise have the exact same composition. Okay, so Shanghai start pretty far up, but they slowly back up to the bend, and there's not a lot going on because, it's standard Circuit Royale around the bend. Void ends up getting a flux off at Hawk. Hawk's only at 60%, so Void kind of diffing Hawk here. And Shanghai get a team wipe off it. But then there's some trades back and forth, standard stuff. Void hits another flex back, so Void basically is 2-1 flexing Hawk. Just a very good dip from Void on the Sigma. Still very good at Sigma mechanics, no doubt. Shanghai hold on. However, Atlanta do get the necessary picks to get through B, and they have 255 going into B. And B is looking pretty good for Shanghai. They kill their supports. Hawk gets a flux and gets nothing with it. However, it's not all fun stuff because Shanghai end up dying because Hawk makes his way into the back line somehow and he just runs at them. But then Shanghai decided to swap fast to get back fast and get a good recontest, and they use Window to do it, but they don't actually get the touch. So then Shanghai don't get the touch, they just die, and now Atlanta have 130 entering C, and Shanghai are all dead. So they're able to take pool control early, basically control all the momentum. Shanghai have reset all their ultimates, and then they just kind of roll because they use their window. Kai is going crazy, and they fully cap. There was just no reason for Shanghai to take that risk. They had a mid at 30 going into C. Even if you don't get the recontest, you still keep your ultimate bank. You still don't give up pool control. And you have a pretty good chance of winning because they just have 2 fights to do it, really. Like two okay fights, right? You get one solid fight and then an overtime push. So I don't know why Shanghai decided to make that decision. I think it was a very poor one. Like maybe you could say, yeah, we have a good chance of holding them if we get that touch, but you also have a good chance of not touching, and then you have a good chance of holding them even if you don't touch, right? You could have gave that up and had a pretty good chance of winning anyway. Very sad that decision from Shanghai. It works out. Like, if they get the touch, it does work out, but they just weren't able to. It messes them all up. Colosseo is a 54.30 to 54.29 win for Atlanta. Venom comes in, Fate comes in, and Li Gong comes in for Bebe. Atlanta playing Sojourn Tracer, Doom on Lucio. Shanghai playing Sojourn Tracer, Balls, and Brig. And just an absolutely close map. Atlanta was in the lead for so long, and then they finally lost it with a minute 30. And then they made a fantastic overtime push to come back. Atlanta's one of the best things they're doing is the trading backlines. And Hawk on the Doomfist is able to do more longer than Fate is on the ball. The thing with Fate on ball, right, is you get the slam and you get a good engage off, and then you get kills. However, Hawk on the Doomfist can go in, get a good engage, and then do more because he has the cooldowns back faster. He can do more damage quickly, and if he's able to do that longer, it just doesn't matter what Fate gets on the ball, right? He's able to kill more, like longer. If the fight goes longer, it's just how it is. So Doomfist is better on the scrappy fights. Fights tend to be very scrappy, and on top of that, Doomfist can stop Ball from doing anything if he chooses the counter dive, which he doesn't often, but it's an option there. So Fate just can't swing in front of Hawk, right? He'll get punched. But yeah, I really like the Doomfist here. Atlanta backline's able to live longer, and just great job trading backlines out. Atlanta also very smart on overtime push. They recognized that Shanghai needed to get Izayaki back. He died whenever Shanghai was trying to push in. And then they end up diving him like on his way back, and they kind of steamroll off of that in a way. Nano OG came out and he killed killed Fate from like half with the nano boost. He just wasn't missing. And he ends up getting a great kill and just a great team effort from Atlanta there to get the win. They did have it for so long, but Atlanta managed to like come back, take the lead, and then they just lose still. But yeah, that was great from Atlanta. Tom can play the magic. Gonna go to Hawk. I think he's a huge difference maker on the Doomfist, and it's not just the Doomfist. He was able to play the Winston to match Fate. Despite losing on King's Row, I think he had a very good Winston. And even though Void may have diffed him a little bit on Circuit Royale, that's just A, and A is already very defensive sided, so it'd be hard not to diff. And Hawk just played a solid Sigma overall anyway, so I'm just a huge fan of Hawk and what he does for this roster, and he just enables them so well. Similar to a Kaluge or a Reiner now, right? He's that good. And he needs to be in that conversation, I think. I think he's ready for that. So, overview. Shanghai did this thing again, right? They won the first round of class pretty easily, gave hope, then they lost the map, and then it wasn't great. I didn't love the Hawk ball. Hope I don't see that again. And I don't understand why they abandoned the Sigma on King's Row. I think it was probably the answer there, but whatever. And as for Shanghai, I don't know. They're just not fully there. They're missing pieces from the game plan and just some poor decision making, especially on that Circuit Royale. That recontest really hurts them. Atlanta does diff them on the Doom comp anytime Shanghai try to break it out. Just don't do that. It's the same thing. Atlanta don't ball mirror. Shanghai don't do mirror. It's pretty simple. And Shanghai just don't look fully comfortable like the entire time. Also, the inflexibility of Fate does hurt them a lot. You basically are stuck onto Winston or Ball or Doomfist, but if you're on Doomfist, then you're losing the mirror. Ball kind of loses to Doomfist, and then you're stuck on Winston, who isn't great. So I just don't love the flexibility that Shanghai has. Just unlucky. And also, Lip can't carry as hard whenever Kai is the hit scan on the other side, right? If you have a very good hit scan, it's harder to carry against a good hit scan. So, sad there. And Atlanta just looked like a more coordinated team. Again, better ideas. They just look like they know what they want to do, and they're extremely comfortable on any picks. Just an Atlanta diff, I would say. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Fusion against the Hangzhou Spark. Ends up being a 3-2 for Philly, sadly. Should maybe not be wearing this hat, but whatever. Oasis with a 2-1 for Spark. Philly playing M3 Zest, Bellistry, Aim God, and Fixa. Spark playing Shy, Alpha E, Bernard, Super Rich Irony, I didn't get to watch Garden, but it was 199 for Philly. I was finishing up a project, so I didn't get to see it. However, City Center is 199 for Spark. They're playing Ash Tracer Ball Brig Zen, which is also what Philly is playing. So, twinsies. And Shy is just so good. He turns lost fights into one fights, just somehow, just out of nowhere. The Philly backline kind of just crumpling to Bernard and the Spark DPS, and even the Spark supports are getting on them sometimes and killing. Irony is playing actually very well. He is getting multiple starting picks, and he's diffing aim god very hard. Philly were basically able to get good percent and stall out to 99 because it's City Center. MN3 also gives them some fight wins, but and also Spark were committing ults into a lost fight, and that kind of drags it up to 99. But it was kind of like a Spark. I thought Spark played much better and were the obviously better team at this point. So yeah, they end up taking City Center. University is 100 to 82 for Spark. They're playing Sojourn Tracer Doom Brig on it. Philly on the ball instead. And Philly do a pretty odd play where they prioritize the initial point cap instead of trading or peeling backline, so they just kind of lose. So there's that. Philly, wait, am I stupid? No. Maybe I'm stupid, hold on. Okay, I am stupid. They initialized a point cap and then they still won because they got a good dive after it. Sure. Philly use ults, but then Spark back up, wait for them out, and then they slowly kind of play around the point. They take the, not the coast side, but the opposite side, the hallway, and Shy gets some good angles, and then he explodes onto the point, goes through with a nano clock. And then from there on out, Belisari just doesn't find any really good dives. He keeps getting slept and dying by Irony. Zest is dying, and Spark end up winning. So pretty solid win from Spark here. Of course, I didn't get this the first map, but they looked very good in these two maps. Then it goes to King's Row, and it's a 3-2 for Philly. Fury comes in for Belisari. Philly on their offense plays Sojourn, Ash, Sigma, Zen, Bap. Spark plays the same thing with Echo. So Zest ends up getting a pick, and Philly get 2 ticks, but then Shy comes in and kills 2, and then he dies. However, the team's reset, so 2 ticks for Philly, reset though. Then Zest comes in, and he just walks in and kills Shy. He straight up just walks his little way through Hotel, and right-click Shy twice and kills him. And then he makes a ton of space for Philly, and then Philly end up winning, and I have 420 entering B. However, Philly are now playing very slowly, and on B, they keep getting picked off by Irony or Shy. Bernard ends up whiffing a Flux, though, and then rocks Fury out of his Flux, which is very nice. But eventually, Zest ends up taking a lot of alley control and pressuring the backline. He kills Shy, opens up the fight for Philly, and they head into C with 230. And then they kind of roll through C. Very scrappy fights, but they just keep coming in on top. Philly are just using the ults more aggressively, and Irony is not able to find a place to get Trank, and then Philly cap with 53 seconds. I don't know how you're unable to find a Transcendence in scrappy fight where ultimates are going, but he probably just got picked off early. Just unlucky. But yeah. Hangzhou's offense, they play Sojourn, Hanzo, Sigma, Bab, Zen, which is also what Philly's playing. Hangzhou kind of slowly fight on A. Bernard gets a pressure's point and gets 2 takes, but then Philly drops down and they end up winning. They do fill a fight in the Hotel because of a good dragon, and Spark is eventually able to pressure point and win, and they have 325 entering B. However, very scrappy fight through B, and it looks like Philly would win it, but Alfie hits a dragon strike, which forces Fury off of the point, and I have 230 entering C, but on C, it's just all Philly. Zest is doing a lot on the Echo and the Genjis on both, and Shy isn't able to find any opening picks. Philly end up holding pretty strong, pretty solidly. Dorado is a 3-2 for Spark. Belisari comes back in, and Gushwei comes in for Bernard. Gushwei gets his map. Hangzhou, their offense, plays Sojourn, Tracer, Winston, Brig, Ana. Philly play Ash, Tracer, Balls, and Brig. Philly are having a very good hold on B in the early high grounds, but then Irony ends up getting a good sleep on Belisari, and then also sleeping Zest after, and they get past pretty, well, not easily, but they get past. Gushwei jumps the gun a little bit, nanos into the backline, but Philly are not that deep, so they're able to just walk away. And then Gushwei decides to chase them, but he ends up dying. Hangzhou used to also try and save it, but it's just not enough. They end up wasting ults. However, Shy, the GOAT, able to open up the fight on A with a pick on MN3, and then also killing Belisari off. So Spark entered B with 230, and then Shy just rolls through B because he's the GOAT, and he kills everyone. So they have 210 entering C. Philly gets picks on C to stop the Spark momentum, but then Nano, Gushwei, and Primo is able to win in overtime. Alfie is able to kill MN3 before he gets a bob off, which is crucial, and Spark finish in overtime. Philly on their offense play Sojourn Tracer, Balls, and Bap. Spark play Sojourn Tracer, Winston, Brigana. Spark take out Bellstreet pretty early, and they look good. But the Philly DPS say, I don't think so. And they end up winning with 505 heading into B. But Spark is able to hold on B because Shy Nanoclock is just different. Kills him in 3. However, Bellstreet is able to kill Super Rich with mines, and then Philly DPS get kills, so they have 340 entering C. Zest hits a crazy sneaky play. He hides in the high ground corner. Multiple Spark people have a very easy opportunity to turn around and look at him. Alpha Yi doesn't look at him. Gooshway doesn't look at him. Super Rich doesn't look at him. Shy doesn't look at him. But you know who does see him? Irony. 2 seconds before he dies and gets pulsed. So quite bad. Philly are looking good, but then Nano Gooshway and Nanoclock Shy are able to hold on. But then Philly have the ult advantage. They get nothing with the ults. And they get picked off early multiple fights in a row, and then Spark build up their ults back, because they didn't need to use them because Shy is just killing people. And they hold on with their ultimates that they've built up. So it's kind of a fumble from Philly there. Zest hit a crazy play. Works out for him, but it doesn't work out for Philly. New Queen Street, 98-63 for Philly. Kind of a big deal. Bernard comes back in for Gooshway. But Spark play Ash Tracer, Zarya, Brigana. Philly play Ash Tracer, Balzen Ana. Bernard is very much unable to get any charge. The Zarya is looking quite useless at this point. Philly have this very raw aggression that basically instantly wins them 2-fight and a checkpoint. So Spark are playing from behind the entire map. And they push back good. And they somehow end up winning a fight with Grav despite losing both DPS early. And I was like, why are you grabbing this? But then they still win, so whatever. They almost get to the checkpoint, but then Fixa hits an insanely lucky sleep on Shy as he's sliding in with the nano boost. He was aiming at Bernard, but Shy happened to jump into it. And they end up stopping the checkpoint from that, and that is a match-altering play. Because at this point, Philly had pushed pretty far in, but they weren't, like, it wasn't unwinnable. And if Shy is able to get into the backline with his nano boost and overclock, there's a good chance that he's able to do things. So, absolutely lucky ass sleep from Fixa, but whatever. And the Zarya pick from Spark are really not working out. The Grav isn't that. It's very difficult for Brown to build charge into this because what is he building charge off of? Is a hit scan, a tracer, and a ball. He's getting charge off of what, Zenyatta? I don't know. It's a really rough time, and Bernard is just not really doing it. Bernard is able to swap Doomfist, and Shy makes it competitive by being Shy. But they use too much ult and have to gain too much ground to be able to win multiple fights in a row, and Philly end up forcing map 5. At this point, Shy has 65 out of 138 final blows. So he's almost like deadlifting across the entire map. That's like 48% or something. So whatever, Shy, go crazy. Li Zhang ends up being a 2-1 for Philly as Gooshway comes back in for Bernard. Control Center is 170 for Philly. They're playing Sojourn Tracer, Balls, and Brig. Spark playing Sojourn, Genji, Doomfist, Lucio, Ana. Spark mess up Philly on the coast and they end up capping first. Bellstreet then kills 3 though. And Spark end up scrapping out and they get a lot of percentage, but Philly's able to close it out. Alpha Yi hits a beat blade and they make Philly kite out. And Super Rich ends up trading for his ass, but Gooshway dies and Philly hold on. Very scrappy fight, finally. Shy ends up killing MN3 and Spark are looking good and getting kills, but then MN3 is able to come back and Zest is able to pop off, and the Philly DPS, per normal, watch out. Gardens is 100-43 for Spark. They're playing at Tracer, Genji, Winston, Lucio, Ana, so notice Shy has moved off of the Sojourn. Philly is playing Ash, Tracer, Balls, and Brig. Hangzhou's dive was very well synced. They were able to kill MN3 very early and often, and Alpha Yi Blade was crazy. But this was a very good map from Spark. This map, quite close quarter relative to the other ones. And they're able to jump on MN3 very easily. If MN3 isn't able to pop off, Spark have a pretty good chance of winning. So like that's even a map where Spark doesn't play or where Shy doesn't play the Sojourn or anything. So that's normally a sign of things that maybe don't play it there, but maybe that's not true because on Night Market he doesn't play it either, and that is a very good Ash map. So Night Market is 183 for Philly. They play Ash, Tracer, Balls, and Brig. Hangzhou play Tracer, Genji, Winston, Lucio, Ana again. but it is not to be. MN3 is killing a lot, so Spark. The whole thing is either you kill MN3 early or you lose, and that's the game they play. End up losing. Shy on Tracer, admittedly not at the same level as his Sojourn. He's doing his job to an extent, but like he's stopping the point flip and things like that, but he's getting picked early often, and he's not really committing to a dive with Alfie and Gushue. He's more marking Belosria and marking Zest, but it's hard to mark Zest whenever Zest can just kill you because he's better. So yeah, I don't love this strategy. I feel like this is not how you're going to win at all, and I don't agree with this idea. They did it again last time. I still don't like it. Second to last fight, Philly ended up flipping point, and they in the middle of the fight, and then Spark commit ults to the fight and then lose it, and it makes it very hard for them to end up winning in their overtime fight. In the overtime, Nano, Gushue, and Alfie are able to kill at MN3, but as they try to fight point, Belosria drops the minefield and it kills like 3 people. They just jump right into it, and Philly end up winning. So there's also a play that I forgot to mention on, I don't remember what it was, but I believe it was Gardens where Belosria had a sick play and he like booped 3 off the map or something, but whatever. That could have been a different time because Philly also play later, so happens. But Thompson played a match against the Zest. He wholly outplayed Alfie the entire match. His Tracer gameplay, the Echo gameplay, the Genji gameplay, it was all better. There were many moments where Shy was a better hit scan, right? But Zest was never really diffed by Alfie the entire match. And he was the core reason that Philly were able to win King's Row, that he was so strong on the C defense with the Echo, the Genji, and he really made Philly a triple threat between MN3 and Belosria beside him. At times the dives aren't great with Belosria. They were uncoordinated at times, but they were good enough. And I don't know, Zest was able to be that X factor in this gameplay. But overall, absolute banger, phenomenal game. Spark pretty much carried by Shy. He had well over the normal amount of final blows for a good player. It was like a great number of final blows. He did as much as he could, but the rest of Philly were able to overcome it and end up winning. Belosria had an outstanding game. He came up close very often, especially on Li Zhang at the very end with the minefield. The minefields were huge for him. Philly were able to carry this heavy support line because they kept winning with raw gaming. And even though Spark played a good game, they weren't able to support Shy enough to get the win. I still am going to disagree with putting him on Tracer pretty much ever. He's just too dynamic on the other characters. Alfie, I think, needed to be better to add another threat level, because right now it was just Shy all the time, right? If you shut down Shy, you will win. If you don't shut down Shy, or if you shut down Shy, you win. If you don't shut down Shy, you lose. Shouldn't quite be like that. Alfie, I think he's great. He was good, but he needs to be better for Spark to be a legitimately top 4 team. They were not winning. And I also disagree with the Zarya pick on New Queen Street. I have no idea why you would ever do that, especially because you know that they're going to play the ball. I don't fully understand it, but I don't know, kind of a disappointing loss from Spark, but it's Philadelphia. Philadelphia has been their arch nemesis this entire time. They always come to play against Spark, so credit to them. Now, we have the winners final. This was an absolute beauty of a match. Love this. It was the LA Gladiators against the San Francisco Shocks. Ends up being a 3-2 for Shock. Phenomenal game. So Ilios ends up being a 2-0 for the Gladiators. They're playing Kester, Potafon, Reiner, Shu, and Funny Astro. Shock playing Sam proper. They had said Mickey on the screen, but it's Mikey and Finn and Violet. So Wells 196 for the Gladiators, playing Tracer, Genji, Winston on a Lucio. Shock playing Echo, Tracer, Balls, and Brig. And Funny Astro is a huge difference maker here. The Lucio pick helps Glad set the tempo and exerts far more point pressure with the threat of being booped into the pit than Violet does on Brig at any time. Potafon, not getting big value on his blade. However, he is doing a lot in the neutral on the Genji, but he does swap over to Sombra eventually. And he does a lot of work on the Sombra, admittedly. I think it was quite good. Mikey was doing a lot before he swapped onto it, so that's probably why he swaps on. But, yeah. Also, Reiner was actually killed often, but he was forcing a lot of resources, and his DPS were able to clean up. So his dives are very good. I think it would. I think that's like what he needs to do. Almost, he has to make Shock put a lot of resources in it because he's getting a lot of resources himself. But whenever you have Kevster and Podifying going so hard on Tracer Genji, and Funny Astro is there to help clean up also. Funny Astro is an actual component of the dive if he's not peeling. But I did find him dying a bit more than you would expect. But works out for Gladiators in the end. So they win. Ruins is 199 for the Gladiators. They're playing Tracer, Sojourn, Doom, Ana, Lucio. Shock playing Hanzo, Tracer, Balza, and Ana. Sam on the Hanzo kind of gets a good amount of logs off, so they end up capping, but Reiner gets burned down on the Doomfist quite hard. But Gladiator adapts, they dive very fast, they dive very coordinated, and they kill very quickly. However, if Finn is able to live any amount of time on a Zenyatta, he will just kill you. So it just depends, are you able to kill Finn fast enough or no? Turns out consistently they are able to kill Finn fast enough. He's not able to survive as a Zenyatta for that long with the Ana. And the Gladiator's dive kind of wins against the Shock dive once Reiner swaps over to the Winston. The Doomfist to freely antied and slept and discorded. I can't think of the word right now, but the Winston was able to mitigate some more damage. And Gladiators were able to win 2-0, but it was a very contested 2-0. These were not easy wins. And that's kind of well, it's not how the entire series goes, but how a good portion of it goes. I can also 2-1 for Shock. Skewed comes in for Funny Astro, and Kaluge comes in for Mikey. Gladiators offense play Genji, Sojourn, Zarya, Ana, Lucio. Shock play Echo, Tracer, Diva, Zen, Ana. So Gladiators kind of walk in with the Zarya, Zen, and the Cap A pretty fast, and they have 5-10 entering B. And they get some good push then, but the Shock hits a dive into the backline. Kaluge hits a critical DM on a Reiner, so he's unable to get healed by his Ana. And the Shock end up winning there. Gladiators use Kevster Nano and an Overclock to kill and move into the end of B, but Violet swaps over to Baptiste critically in anticipation of a Kevster Blade, which still kills too, but he doesn't kill everyone because of the lamp. And then Reiner swaps over to the ball, but it's just too late for the Gladiators' offense. The Shock backline is now unkillable. Finn is doing so much damage. Proper is doing so much work. He has 34 elims, 15 final blows, and 2 deaths. That is not this. That's not the time for this stat, though. That stat happens at the end, because right now, Sam has 12 out of 24 final blows, so technically a deadlift from Sam on that defense. But Proper ends up overtaking him quite easily, because he is also doing the Lord's work. Shock on their offense play Echo, Tracer, Winston, Zen, Ana. Gladiators play Genji, Sojourn, Zarya, Ana, Zen again. Finn opens up and ends up dying. Gladiators give ticks, but then they force Shock back. However, Proper is just better at Shock have 440 entering B, and they kind of roll through B. They use the ultimates. Glads try to be aggressive, but Shock ends up trading the backline out better, and Shock kind of win. So the aggression from Gladiators kind of fall out a little bit. I don't love the Zarya defense. I feel like it kind of loses to literally everything. I don't know what it beats. Maybe it beats Diva, but then Shock can just, go into spawn and switch. So, like, these two teams scrim a lot together is what, who said it? It's what Sam said in the interview. They scrim each other a lot, which is why you will see some weird stuff from them. Like maybe the Zarya pick and the Diva pick, they scrimmed so much that Gladiators knew the Diva was coming. So they just said, okay, we'll go Zarya. But yeah, that's why you get some weird stuff like that. So I kind of understand the Zarya, but at the same time, Kaluge can swap, so I don't love it. Circuit Royale is a 3-1 for Shock. Ons comes in for Podifon, Space comes in for Reiner, and Kilo comes in for his hand, and I'm not sure why the Gladiators picked this map, to be honest with you. Does not make a lot of sense to me. Shock on their offense play Widow, Sojourn, Sigmas, and Bap. That's the exact same thing as Gladiators play on their defense. Gladiators will play for a pretty good while, as, Circle Rail does. But Kaluge ends up hitting a Flux, which lets Kilo gets a pick on Ons, which lets Proper kill 3, and then Shock head into B with 425. But the Gladiators stabilize on B pretty well, even though Shock get a good amount of push. They get a fight win, and they push into spawn for staggers, but they get caught out. And that's all Shock needs to cap B really in the end because of how much they pushed before. They have 3 minutes entering C, and they just kind of roll it. Space hits a Flux, but it isn't able to stop the momentum. Violet comes out with a window. Proper goes crazy. And Shock ends up capping with 1:33. Gladiators, on the other hand, on their offense, they play the exact same thing again. However, It's just not there. Ons is different kilo, right? But it's not enough sometimes because Proper is that guy. However, he does get a little too aggressive and die, but Shocker just stabilizing because they hit trade windows. Space ends up dying. Shock kind of win on A for a bit. Space hits a flex and gets nothing. However, Gladiators is able to kill Collusion eventually, heading into B with 235. So a very slow A for them. That's basically overtime right there. But they do get to B. But they're just now winning once they get to B. Collusion hits a flex and kills Skewed. Violet Windows Crossfire, Shock, just hold on. Gladiators just aren't winning. Proper is doing so much on the Sojourner. He's diffing Kevster out the wazoo. Kilo is diffing Ons, and it's just a complete difference at this point. Proper had 21 out of 40 final blows on Sojourn on Circuit Royale, and it really makes me question why the Gladiators decided to pick this map. It's like they kind of got diffed all around. I'll take Proper over Kevster on the Sojourn any day, to be honest. Like Kevster's a good Sojourn, but Proper's kind of better. Like they're literally in the same role, but I feel like Proper is so dynamic. Normally, you don't see your Sojourn getting that much. Your Sojourn got 21 out of 40 on Circuit Royale, where Widowmaker is probably a better pick. That's crazy. Proper is literally so good. He transcends hero picks. Colosseo ends up being a 106.82 to 106.81 win for the Gladiators, and this was a comeback of the century. Maybe the best comeback on Colosseo we've ever seen. There's a lot of swaps. Potafon comes in for Ons, Reiner comes in for Space, Funny Astro comes back in for Skewed, Sam comes in for Kilo, and Mikey comes in for Kaluge to play Winston. Why do we keep subbing in Mikey to play Winston? Make that one make sense. Gladiators play Tracer, Sojourn, Doom on a Lucio. Shock plays Sojourn, Tracer, Winston on a Lucio. So the only difference being the Doom or the Winston. Why? What's going on here? Ball? I don't get it. Shock come out of the day and they just start rolling. They cap the first checkpoint with 7:30 still on the clock, and they push even deeper than that. But the Gladiators are eventually able to stabilize using ults, but it looks really bad for them at this point. But the Gladiators are fighters. They start doing the little things, right? Reiner moves his focus away from trying to stop Mikey from doing things, and he moves towards the Gladiators' backline. And he just doesn't die when he dives this backline. He forces so many resources, and he ends up getting kills, and he doesn't die. There's a critical moment where Sam ends up sliding into Finn while he's stuck, and Gladiators gain a bunch of momentum, and Shocker desperately trying not to get rolled at this point. There is a lot of pushback, right? It is overtime by the time Gladiators take the lead because of how dominant Shock were in the beginning. But, like, it is looking like Gladiators... It's a matter of time before Gladiators ends up taking the lead. They keep on pushing. They end up gaining the checkpoint to get close spawns, and it hits overtime, and then Kevster goes feral on the back line and just rolls them. He's able to complete the comeback. Kevster on Colosseo is starting to be like a demon in my mind, because he's literally had phenomenal after phenomenal performance on this map, and it's just unreal. Funny Astro has a pretty damn good time here. He's so good. Funny Astro is so good. It makes me wish he was in all the time. But Skewed is also very good. I don't know. Just Funny Astro never dies. He just never dies. It's like if you kill Funny Astro, it's like the end of the century. I want to know his death percentage because it is so low. It's actually crazy. And comparing him to Violet and Lucio, he's just so much better. Funny Astro deserves a... It's crazy that Glads are so good that Funny Astro gets subbed out. That's what's crazy to me. This is so good. However, Funny Astro comes back out on Oasis, which is a 2-1 for this, or 2-0 for the Shock. This says 2-1. That was not what it was. It was a 2-0 for the Shock. Skewed comes back in, Kilo comes in, and Kaluge comes in. University is just a 100 over the Shock. This was a terrible map for the Gladiators. I don't know how. It was so bad. They're playing Tracer, Sojourn, Doom on a Zen. Shock playing Ash, Tracer, Doom on a Zen. So pretty similar, but it's just Shock all day. I don't get it. Kilo is diffing. Proper is going crazy. Proper had a phenomenal map. He has a phenomenal everything. But this map specifically, oh my lord. Not even true. That's not even true. He just never disappoints me, and he always impresses. I don't know how it's possible. Shock's dive is just better. The dive from Gladiators was like non-existent. I don't know what was happening. They just never got one off. Like you saw Reiner in the backline sometimes, but he was always alone, and then he literally went off the map because of an unlucky slam that sent him off, and then he punched a wall. But I don't know. I don't know. Shock dive is just better. It's killing the dive. I don't know. Gladiators need to fight back. There's no dive. There's no counter dive. It was a completely different team. City Center is not a 100 to 0 for Shock. It's a 100 to some number. I don't remember what it was. But here's where it gets very weird. It's a Tracer Hanzo Hog on a Zen against an Ash Tracer Hog Zen Bap. We get Roadhog on City Center. And Reiner is dipping him. And I'm not going to say that's because they're on a Zen, right? Kind of is. But that's kind of like hell for Kaluj. He basically can't do anything. But Shock do manage to cap despite a Nano Reiner. So like Gladiators cap first, right? Because Gladiators DPS just rotate into Shock backline. But then Shock managed to flip despite their Nano Reiner off the point. Violet is fragging out on the Baptiste, and Shock gets some good percentage. But then there's an Omega Scrappy fight. Feud hits a big trank. Gladiators DPS went out. And then Kaluj makes a swap over to the D.Va, which is a little bitch made because there was a hog mirror going on, but it's also kind of based because it's D.Va. And now the Shock with Proper are just rolling the backline. Kaluj comes clutch with DM on multiple occasions against the Roadhog. And Proper is just not going to lose this match. Proper was on a mission to clear this one out. And that's why he's the dominant player of the match. It has to be Proper. It just has to be. He's the better player. He's the best player to ever do it. Like, legitimately, this pulse bombs he was hitting, the things he was doing, it's unreal. And the thing about Proper that's so impressive is that he's extremely aggressive, but he also just never dies. I don't know how that's possible. It's like he knows his limits so well that there's no more limit testing. He doesn't test his limits. He knows them. He plays to them, and he is so good at it. It's just a phenomenal match. Both these teams look dominant at different times. And these are like truly great Overwatch teams we have here. Gladiators look great on Ilios, and they come back, and the comeback on Colosseo was so shocking that I think it was the best Colosseo this season comeback. And they just did not give up. And they actually had to grind their way, because it wasn't like Shock that gave up. They were like, oh, we have the lead, we're gonna chill out. No. Shock was like fighting back. But the Gladiators had a little bit more fight. Funny Astro and Lucio, I must say again, so good. So good. Both of the time he wins, he's 2-0 on this series. He helps himself the tempo, and he actually contributes to the dive and does so much damage, and he never dies. It's Funny Astro is God's gift from Britain. He is he is the instance where you're like, maybe Britain isn't so bad. He's that good. Both of these teams play the trade backlines, and neither really played appeal, and the Shock are just so efficient at killing the backline. But when Funny Astro is in, they aren't, because Funny Astro is so good at living. And it'd be interesting to see if he does play more, if these teams meet again. I feel like he won't, but I kind of hope he does. Shock looked dominant on their map wins almost, I would say. The D.Va was clutch on both Eichenwald and Oasis. And even though Proper is for sure carrying, right? He is the carry of this team. The players around him are keeping up, I would say. Like maybe Mikey is not keeping up quite the same way, but he's not. I think Mikey gets a little more hate than he deserves, to be honest. But the Kaluj lineup is definitely stronger. But everyone is for sure like keeping up with him well. Sam had a moment where he was deadlifting on a round. Finn is very talented. Violet on the Baptiste was never going to let you down, really. So I would say Proper, he is the carry, but he's not as hard as a carry, and he's not the soul of this team compared to like Shy on the Spark, right? Like he's doing that much, but his teammates are better around him, I would say. But no doubt, not taking anything away from Proper, he is the carry, right? He is the ultimate carry here. And I really like that we saw the Roadhog mirror on a elimination round, which is just crazy to me. You never see that from any other teams, but that was phenomenal. Phenomenal Overwatch. And on to the final game of the night. These teams back on the document. We have the Philly Fusion against the Atlanta Rain. It's a 3-1 for Atlanta. The Philly Fusion that was there earlier, they're not here now. Lijiang's a 2-0 for Atlanta. They're playing Kai Venom, Hawk, Ultraviolet, and OG. You know them well. Philly playing MN3Z, Bellosuit, AimGod, and Fixa. City Center is 100-60 for Atlanta, but that may as well have been 0. MN3 dies, and he insta-swaps to Sombra, bro, and you have MN3 on Sombra. Why? Do you genuinely think you're going to win against the Atlanta Rain with MN3 on Sombra? Think about it. Think about it. I don't know. I don't know. Atlanta's just perma running at the Philly supports, and they keep perma dying. Philly win at 99% with their ultimates, but Atlanta just save their ultimates to say okay, and they come back and they just force out Philly's only ult with Pulse Bomb, and they win. Just a Atlanta difference. Kai didn't have a Sojourn on the other side, or an Ashe in this case. I'm not going to support that somber pick. That's it. Guard 100 to 99 for Atlanta. This was a little closer, but Atlanta just continued to run onto the Philly supports. As soon as they see them, they say, the Philly supports over there. Let me go kill them, and they do. And they just stay winning. Hawk is finding far more value than Bellisria, but able to do more when he dies, similar to whatever that he was playing. Who the hell did they just play on the document? I'm going crazy. I'm going insane. What did they just play? Shanghai. Similar to Shanghai whenever they play the ball. Same concept there. But yeah. Bellisria, even when he forces a fade, he's still relying on his DPS to kill, whereas they just go. Because Atlanta's playing the slippery, more Lucio backline, which I'm growing to actually understand and love a little bit more. I'm not going to be a straight-up Moira Lucio hater, especially in these dive compositions, because Atlanta just don't want to peel at all. They don't care about peeling. And that's what we're seeing a lot of the top teams. They just don't really care about peeling as much. They just want to trade backlines faster. Philly do actually get a fight win, and they have some pretty good success at killing the Atlanta supports as they try to rotate to the point, whether it be through white or through bridge. But Atlanta are able to trade out in overtime, and the supports are able to get back first because they're faster, and they end up winning. So it wasn't horrible from Philly, but Atlanta were able to get to the 99 first. Their composition is better in overtime, and Atlanta win. So Kings Rose a 2-0 for Atlanta. Bellisria is still in. No cap. That should be Fury, but Philly messed up a little bit, and they put in Bellisria. Atlanta, on their offense, play Sojourn Tracer, Winston on a Zen. Philly play Ashe Tracer, Sigma, Zen, Bap. So Bellisria is in, and they're still on the Sigma. So that's how you kind of know something's up. Atlanta tried to tackle the Sigma come with dive, but then they're like, no, I'm okay. And then the Hawk swaps off and goes Sigma, which he didn't do in the previous series. So they've learned from their mistakes. Gotta love that. Atlanta immediately able to walk onto the point and get 2 ticks and some kills, but then Zest gets a 2k pulse in the backline, and Philly turned the fight right around. OG ends up killing Zest, and now when Atlanta walk to the point, Bellisria has to drop much earlier because he can't give any ticks away. And they are unable to force resources out from Hawk, and Atlanta win and have 355 heading into the B point. Philly give a good amount of push on B, to be honest. They stabilize by living through a flux and then taking out Hawk. And then the next fight, Kai kills multiple, and then Atlanta just used that to cap with 305 heading into C. Then Zest moves over to Hanzo, and then he moves over to the Genji, and Philly are actually holding pretty well. Zest on this Kings Row C, just a dominant player. I don't know what it is about this point, but Atlanta kind of stumped. Engod is free firing from the back. M3 is doing his thing. Zest is doing a lot, and Atlanta just aren't able to find the picks they need to actually cap, but they don't need to because Philly don't know how to attack. They're playing Sojourn, Hanzo, Sigma, Zen, Bap. Atlanta playing Sojourn, Tracer, Sigma on a Zen. And if they try to pressure point, they can't live. They just die. And then they swap over to Genji, Winston, Ana. So it's weird you see Atlanta start on the dive and then switch to the Sigma, but Philly start on the Sigma and switch to the dive. So maybe a little backwards there, and they just don't win. Anytime Bellisria goes, he just, I don't know. Like, there's a time where he lives. No, he doesn't. He jumps onto the high ground and dies, and the rest of the team hunts down Venom, but it's like, why are you hunting down a Tracer? You took 15 years to hunt down a Tracer, you still died, and the Tracer got back before you even did anyway, so what's the point? Unless they're just holding. Pixa loses his nano and MN3 mid-casts. Team just dies. MN3, at the very end, he jumps in and kills 2, but his whole team is dead. So too little, too late, and like a full hold. Now, Route 66 is a 2-1 for Philly. They show a little bit of hope here. Atlanta play Hanzo Tracer, Sigma, Bab, Zen. Philly play Ashe Tracer, Ball, Zen, Brig. Philly let Atlanta just kind of coast through until the very end, and then they remember they can actually dive, so they execute a dive on the backline. MN3 capitalizes off it, and Philly end up holding. And then they remember that they can actually dive as well whenever they're walking to the point, not just on the point, which is a crazy concept. Whole new world. And they string a couple fight wins together. And then finally it hits overtime. Hawk says, I'm going to play D.Va. And Yuvi goes to the Ana. And D.Va is actually able to hunt down the targets that get low, acting like it's just like a finisher. And he's able to live on the point better because Diva has armor, Sigma doesn't, DM goes crazy, the Ana healing goes big, and Atlanta end up capping in overtime. So they have like 230 on B, and B is just a long drawn out fight that has Atlanta lose, but they take 15 years to actually lose, and they also commit ultimates. And then it ends up going to overtime. Bellisria just mines the point in overtime, and Philly just kind of win as they dive the back line. Atlanta can't really stay on the card. Philly on their offense, they just kind of roll. They're playing the ball still, unless they're playing the Sigma still. They just kind of roll. They tend to be with 4+ minutes because AimGod actually is getting good kills. However, I'm still not. He's getting a lot of kills and he's in the kill feed a lot, but I don't say he has a good match. His Transcendence usage, not great. I would like that to be a bit better. But he was getting kills, so that's an improvement. But he was still dying a lot. Philly just kind of rolled through though. It's just a roll. I don't know what happened here. I could not tell you what happened here. The dive looked good. Too bad it couldn't be sustained. Coliseum is a 74-53 for Atlanta. Philly playing Ash Tracer, Balls, and Brig. Atlanta playing Sojourn Tracer, Doom, Moira, Lucio. And you get Doomfist into Ball on Coliseum, which we literally had earlier against Shanghai. And it's kind of the same thing, only I'd say Philly did a better job. Atlanta run it onto the Philly backline and just kind of win still, though. Moira Lucio is too slippery. And Philly aren't counter diving. They're just trying to trade backlines. It just doesn't work out as well. Philly aren't getting rolled. Like, they're still winning fights. And, like, Atlanta don't even get the checkpoint until, like, 2 minutes left or something. Or, no, it's 45 seconds left. And they actually shouldn't have won that, but whatever. And it's not a roll, but Atlanta are certainly in control of this map. They're bending, but they're not breaking. Philly are kind of trolling. They end up dying first. The Philly DPS end up dying first in a lot more fights than they should. I don't even know how. AimGod playing well, which makes it even more tragic that Philly are unable to win because AimGod is normally a liability on this roster. He still is a liability, but he's actually fragging a little bit, which is concerning whenever AimGod is fragging and you're losing because AimGod should probably be the weakest piece of your team. And he was doing good. So that tells you that the DPS were not having a great time. Philly, whenever they do game push, they hit this play multiple times where Bellisria would set up far in the back line, and they would let Atlanta walk forward so then Bellisria can get a huge slam and good boops and get, like, poop them out of position. Poop them out of position, rather. I guess you can poop them, sure, whatever. But I don't like that. I don't like going for this play multiple times in a row because, like, once Atlanta knows that it's coming, which they figured out very quickly, they just run at Philly and they just win. Bellisria isn't able to actually stop that momentum. Maybe he is, like, sometimes, but it's not good, and I don't think you probably want to do that. But yeah, just not there. Atlanta do get that checkpoint at 45 seconds, and then they win a fight that should not have won. Venom ends up sticking Fixa, and he decides to pop Rally. Kai and Venom end up just clearing Philly off the bot, like, solo. I don't think Philly wanted to play anymore, and that's it. So, time to play a match. I'm going to go to Hawk again. I'm going to give him 2 because of that flexibility. He earns the second one of the night. He's so good. I just cannot get over how strong he is on multiple heroes, man. The ability to switch over from the Doomfist to the Sigma to the Diva, it's just so good. No, he didn't play the Winston in this one, but he doesn't need to. Well, he did, but he recognized, I don't need to do this, and he doesn't. It's just so good. It's such a important thing for this team. He's literally on the same tier as Collusion Reiner. I'm pretty sure I already said that. He's at that tier now. But yeah, I've already talked about Hawk enough. I just think he was a huge key component here. But yeah, Atlanta are just better. They recognized how weak the Philly backline is and how little help they get and how much their backline can usually live a lot longer without any of the help. So they just kind of go on the backline and win. They also recognize when they can dive MN3 and kill him, though, because MN3 was dying early also. So it was between, do you run at MN3, do you run at the backline? Probably whichever is easier at the time, just go. Atlanta are in full force, and I'm excited to see how they look tomorrow against the other 2 NA Titans that are not Vancouver. Atlanta just kind of diffed across all roles, and Philly felt like they ran out of gas. They didn't have the juice to go. And Philly really did not look like the same team they were against Spark. The DPS did not have the same punch. Bellisria was not able to do as much. I suspect that's because the Doomfist is more difficult to play ball in the Doom than it was in the Spark, who played Doom a little bit, but not nearly as well or as good or as frequently as the Atlanta ran. And again, AimGod had good frags, but there were questionable transcendence decisions where he just wouldn't use it sometimes. But better than he was. So I'll take that as a W if you're AimGod. Simply wasn't enough, though. It'd be interesting to see what would happen maybe if this game wasn't played on the same day. The way I would like the schedule is I would like this game to be played tomorrow as well as the next losers finals. And then you play the grand finals on Sunday, but that's not how it works. Tomorrow we get the losers finals and the grand finals right away. So that's going to be extremely hype. So yeah, but anyway, comment down below your thoughts. As always, like this video if you like it, subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content, and thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a good one.